If you ask me why I became a park ranger, I will say that I don't know, because I used to tell people that I loved nature. But that was only half the truth. The real reason was silence. My name is Daniel Harper. I'm 38 years old now, and I worked as a park ranger in the forests of Montana for almost 12 years. I started when I was 26, fresh out of a messy divorce and needing to get away from people. The forest felt honest, peaceful, and calm. But please, before we continue, please like this video and also subscribe to our channel for more scary videos like this. If you have done that now, thank you so much, and let's start the story. For the first 6 years I worked as a park ranger. The job was exactly what I hoped for. I patrolled hiking trails, helped lost campers, checked permits, and sometimes spent weeks alone in an old fire lookout tower deep in the mountains. Most people think that sounds peaceful, and so many people have never spent a full night alone in a forest where there are no city lights, no traffic, and no other human voices. The fire lookout tower I was assigned to was built in the 1940s. It stood about 70 feet tall on a ridge, surrounded by thick pine forest. From the top you can see for miles during the day. At night, though, it was just darkness in every direction. The tower had a small wooden cabin at the top. Inside was a cot, a small propane stove, a desk, a radio, and large glass windows that wrapped around all four sides. When the wind blew, the whole structure creaked. The first strange thing happened during my 7th year on the job. I had been stationed in the tower for 3 weeks straight. No visitors, no hikers, just routine check-ins over the radio every few hours. On the 4th night, around 2:13 a.m., I heard something. I froze in my cot. I told myself it was probably a late hiker, maybe someone lost. That happens sometimes. So I grabbed the spotlight and leaned toward the window. "Hello?" I called down. No answer. Then the footsteps stopped. I scanned the trees with the light. Nothing moved. No reflection from eyes. No shape. Just trees and shadows. Then I heard it again. But this time, it was on the stairs. The metal staircase that wrapped around the tower, one step at a time. My chest tightened. There was no scheduled patrol. No one should have been there, and nobody hikes those trails at 2 a.m. I grabbed the radio. "Hello, dispatch, this is Ranger Harper. I might have a visitor at Lookout 14. Can you confirm if anyone's been cleared to hike the Ridge Trail tonight?" "Negative, Harper. No activity logged." The steps continued climbing. Like whoever it was knew I couldn't go anywhere. I stepped back from the door. There was only one entrance into the cabin, the trapdoor in the center of the floor that opened from the staircase. If someone came up, I would have to face them. The steps stopped right under the trapdoor. I held my breath. For 5 full minutes, I stood there staring at the floor. No knocking, no voice. Finally, I forced myself to open the trapdoor and shine the light down the stairs. Everywhere was empty, completely empty. Over the next week, it kept happening. Always between 2 and 3 a.m. Footsteps around the base, then on the stairs. I checked for tracks during the day. Nothing. The ground was soft pine needles. It should have shown prints, but it didn't. Then one morning, I found something that made my stomach drop. There were handprints on the glass windows, on the outside, at the top of the tower, as if someone had stood outside and pressed their palms against the glass, looking in. That was impossible. There was no balcony wrapping around the cabin, just a narrow metal edge, barely 6 inches wide. No one could stand there. But the prints were there, and they were fresh. I reported it to my supervisor. He blamed stress, isolation, suggested I rotate out early. I refused. I wasn't going to be the ranger who couldn't handle a quiet tower. I needed this job, so I stayed. That was my mistake. It was my last week in the tower. The air felt heavier than usual. No wind, no animal sounds, just stillness. At 2:17 a.m., the steps started again. But this time they didn't pause. They climbed faster. I jumped to my feet as the trapdoor burst open. It slammed against the wall, but no one came through. The staircase below was empty, and then I heard breathing behind me, right against my ear. I spun around. No one. Every window was covered in handprints, hundreds of them, all pressing in from the outside. And in the reflection of the glass, I saw something standing behind me. Its head nearly touched the ceiling. Its limbs looked wrong, too long, bending in strange angles, and it didn't move. It just stood there, watching me. I was too afraid that if I faced it directly, it would touch me. The radio crackled. "Harper, you okay up there?" Dispatch's voice sounded far away. The reflection started to lean closer to me. Its face came into view in the glass. There were no eyes, just empty, dark hollows. I ran. I don't even remember climbing down the stairs. I fell halfway, scraping my arms and back. But I didn't stop. I got into my truck and drove. And I didn't file any paperwork. I just quit the job. 2 months after I left, another ranger took over the tower. He lasted 9 days. He reported hearing footsteps, then breathing. Then he requested immediate transfer. That tower has been unmanned ever since. Officially, they say budget cuts. Rangers don't talk about Lookout 14 anymore. As for me, I don't work in forests anymore. I live in a small town now. I work maintenance at a hardware store. I sleep with lights on. But sometimes, around 2 a.m., I wake up, and I hear it. Footstep on my door. My name is Elena Ramirez. I'm 41 years old, and I worked as a park ranger in southern Arizona for almost 14 years. When people imagine a ranger, they picture deep forests and green mountains. They don't picture endless desert. But the desert can be far more terrifying. I didn't take the job because I loved isolation. I took it because I needed to prove something. I grew up in Tucson. My father was a border patrol agent. When I told him I wanted to become a ranger instead of joining law enforcement, he told me something I never forgot. The desert doesn't forgive mistakes. I thought he meant heat, dehydration, snakes. I didn't understand what he really meant until much later. I joined the National Park Service when I was 27. I had just finished my environmental science degree. I wanted to protect land, educate visitors, but I also wanted to show my father that I could handle danger. Desert parks along the Arizona border are not peaceful tourist spots. They are harsh, wide open, and unpredictable. You deal with lost hikers, smugglers, abandoned camps, extreme heat rescues, and sometimes bodies. Yes, bodies. Most of them are tragic accidents. People underestimate the desert. They think it's just sand and rocks. No, it's not. It shifts. It hides things. It swallows sound. I worked patrol, search and rescue, and sometimes night watch near the canyon regions where tourists rarely go. The deeper parts of the park were beautiful during the day. At night, they felt wrong. The sky was huge and empty. The stars looked sharp, almost too close. And the silence wasn't calm like a forest. It felt stretched, like something holding its breath. The incident happened during my 10th year. Late October, temperatures were mild. Perfect hiking weather. A young couple from California failed to return from a day hike near one of the restricted canyon trails. Their car was found parked legally. Their backpacks were missing. I was assigned as team lead because I knew that region better than anyone. I had mapped it, patrolled it, slept under those cliffs dozens of times. The canyon system there is confusing. It twists and splits into narrow passages that all look the same. GPS signals drop in certain sections. We began at sunrise. By noon, we found their footprints. They followed the trail at first. That was the first mistake. Tourists always think the marked path is optional. It's not. Their tracks led toward a narrower canyon known locally as the Throat. It's a tight passage between two rock walls that narrows so much you have to turn sideways to pass. I didn't like that area, not because it was dangerous physically, but because sound behaves strangely there. If you whisper at one end, it sometimes echoes from a completely different direction. Locals say the canyon throws your voice back at you. I used to think it was just acoustics. We entered the Throat around 3 p.m. The air inside was cooler. Shadows stretched long across the rock. That's when we heard it. Help. It was faint, distant, definitely human. You hear that? said yes. The voice came again. It sounded like a woman. We moved quickly toward the sound, deeper into the canyon. But something was wrong. The voice didn't echo naturally. It didn't bounce. It didn't fade the way sound normally does. It stayed steady. Then, the voice came again. This time it was right behind us. "Help me." We spun around. Nothing. Just empty stone walls. My heart was pounding, but I forced myself to stay calm. People panic in survival situations. Sound can travel unpredictably in canyons. That's what I told myself. We split into 2 teams to cover both forks ahead. That was the second mistake. I went left with one other ranger, Mark. We followed what looked like scuff marks in the dirt. As we turned a corner, I saw something carved into the rock wall. Long vertical lines, like someone dragged metal across stone. Below the scratches were words, "Help us." The letters were uneven and messy. Mark said to me, "That wasn't here last month." I knew he was right. I had inspected this canyon 6 weeks earlier. The air suddenly felt heavier. Then we heard it again. "Elena." My blood turned cold. Mark looked at me slowly. "Did you just hear that?" It said my name, from deeper in the canyon. I had not told anyone else in the park that I was coming on this search. Only Dispatch and the team, and no tourist would know my name. I radioed the other team. No response, just crackling. The canyon walls seemed closer somehow, and then we heard footsteps, running, from behind us. We turned. No one was there, but dust was still settling on the ground, like something had just moved. We later found the male hiker first. He was wedged between 2 rocks. No visible injuries, but his face, his expression was pure terror. Eyes wide open, mouth stretched as if he died screaming. He hadn't been missing long enough. Mark checked for animal bites. Nothing. No snake marks. No trauma. Just fear, frozen on his face. The female hiker was nowhere nearby. And that's when the voice returned. "Don't leave me." We followed it around another bend. And there she was, standing in the middle of the canyon, alive, covered in dust, looking confused. I rushed toward her. "Ma'am, it's okay. We're here to help." She looked at me slowly. Her eyes were wrong. Not physically damaged, but unfocused, like she wasn't fully there. "Where's Tyler?" she asked softly. "We found him." She tilted her head slightly. "He wouldn't stop listening." "Listening to what?" I asked. She didn't answer. Instead she whispered, "They keep calling." And then she screamed, not in fear, but in pain. She collapsed. We rushed to her side. Her pulse was racing, but there were no injuries. No dehydration severe enough to cause hallucinations. We carried her out, and that should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. At the hospital, after fluids and rest, she gave her statement. She said that while hiking, they began hearing someone calling for help from inside the canyon. A man's voice, then a child's voice, then multiple voices, all saying the same thing, "Help us." Her boyfriend Tyler insisted they follow it. She wanted to turn back, but the voices began saying his name, then hers. She said the voices came from different directions at once. Then she said something that made the room go silent. She said at one point she saw people standing along the canyon walls, thin figures, blending into the rock, watching them. And when Tyler stepped closer to one of them, it leaned toward him and whispered something in his ear. After that, he started running deeper into the canyon. She never saw him alive again. She was found only 2 hours after his death. Cause of death was listed as unknown cardiac event. Healthy 29-year-old man gone. No history of heart problems, no drugs, nothing, just terror. After that rescue, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it. "Help me." At first, I blamed trauma. I'd be checking trail markers during the day, and I would hear my name whispered from behind a rock formation. Once, I clearly heard my father's voice calling, "Elena." I turned, expecting to see him. He's been dead for 3 years. There was no one there. The worst night was during a solo patrol near the canyon entrance. The radio was silent. The air was still. And from deep inside the throat, I heard dozens of voices at once. Whispering, laughing softly, calling names, not just mine, random names. I didn't wait. I requested immediate transfer 2 weeks later. Official reason, burnout. Unofficial reason, I was afraid that if I stayed long enough, one day I would follow the voice too. I became a ranger to prove I wasn't afraid of the desert. I endured heat, storms, isolation. But the desert doesn't forgive mistakes. My name is Thomas Keller. I'm 52 years old now, and I spent 22 years working as a park ranger in the mountains of West Virginia, deep inside the Appalachian Range. Out of all the forests in America, Appalachia feels the oldest. Not the tallest, not the widest, but the oldest. The mountains are worn down, rounded like bones that have been buried for centuries. The trees grow thick and close together. Fog hangs low in the mornings and doesn't always lift by noon. When people ask why I became a ranger, I tell them the simple reason. I was born there. My father worked timber. His father worked coal. Most men in my family either cut the land or dug into it. I wanted to protect what was left. So at 24 I joined the Park Service. I believed in conservation. I believed these mountains deserved someone on their side. For nearly 15 years, the job was everything I hoped it would be. Long patrols through dense forest, helping lost hikers, maintaining trails, educating tourists about black bears and venomous snakes. But there was one place in my district that nobody liked to talk about, an old ranger station. Closed in 1987. Officially, it was shut down due to budget restructuring. The stories never stopped. The station was called Briar Ridge Outpost. It sat nearly 12 miles from the nearest paved road, accessible only by a narrow dirt trail that wound through thick forest. The building itself was small, just a one-story wooden structure with a porch, 2 rooms, and a radio tower behind it. It had been used during the 1960s and 70s as a remote ranger housing unit. 3 rangers had been assigned there over the years. All 3 left early. The last one disappeared. That part was never publicly confirmed, but among rangers, we all knew. Ranger William Harlow, 1987, vanished during a solo winter shift. No body ever recovered. The station was boarded up soon after. For years, no one was assigned to that section of forest overnight. Until budget cuts forced the department to reopen old patrol zones. And guess who volunteered? Me. I had been with the service long enough that I wasn't afraid of rumors. I had camped alone hundreds of nights. I knew how to handle isolation. I moved into the outpost in early October. Leaves covered the ground in thick layers of red and gold. The forest felt heavy and quiet. When I unlocked the station door, the smell hit me first. A faint sour smell, like something had once rotted there. I told myself it was just moisture damage. Inside, the furniture was basic. A cot, a desk, an old filing cabinet. Most of the records had been cleared out decades earlier. The radio tower outside still worked after some repairs. That first night, nothing happened. No strange sounds, no movement, just wind in the trees. But around 3 a.m., I woke up suddenly. Not because of a noise, because of a feeling. Like someone was standing beside my bed. I didn't move. I kept my eyes closed and listened. I heard a slow breathing, not mine, right next to me. I grabbed my flashlight and swung it across the room. The room was empty. The door was still locked from the inside, windows shut tight. I told myself it was just the building settling. But I left the light on for the rest of the night. On my 3rd day, while cleaning out the filing cabinet, I found something wedged in the back panel. A notebook. Old. Leather cover. Inside were handwritten entries. Most entries were normal. Weather reports, wildlife sightings, notes about patrol routes. But the later entries changed. October 14. Hearing knocks on the porch at night. October 19. Something walking in the tree line. Too tall for a bear. October 23rd. It stands near the tower, watching. October 28th. It knows my name. That was the last full entry. The final page had only one sentence, scratched hard into the paper. It doesn't want the station empty. I felt a cold wave move through my body as I read that. I almost reported it. Almost. But I didn't want to be the ranger scared off by an old notebook. It started on my 6th night. 3 knocks on the porch door. I checked the clock. Around 2:47 a.m. I grabbed my shotgun and stepped toward the door. "Park ranger," I called out. "Identify yourself." Silence. I opened the door quickly. Nothing there. Just fog rolling through the trees. No footprints in the dirt. I closed the door, locked it. 2 minutes later, 3 more knocks. This time on the side wall of the cabin, as if someone was walking around the outside. I stepped outside again with the flashlight. The beam moved across trees, brush, shadows. And then I saw it. About 30 yards away, between 2 trees, a figure, tall, standing perfectly still. I raised the light directly at it, and didn't step back. Then the flashlight blinked, just once. When the beam steadied again, it was gone. No sound of movement, no broken branches. After that, I started hearing footsteps inside the station at night, like bare feet on wood, moving from one side of the room to the other, sometimes stopping right beside my bed. I would turn on the light. Nothing, but objects began shifting. My keys moved from the desk to the floor. The journal I hid inside my backpack reappeared on the table. Once I woke up to find the front door wide open. I was certain I had locked it. The final night happened in mid-November. Wind howled through the trees. At 3 a.m., the radio crackled to life. But no one was calling in. It was just static. And beneath the static, I heard whispering. I stepped toward the radio slowly, and then I heard it clearly. Thomas, my name. Not distorted, not broken, clear. Right through the speaker. The whisper continued. The door behind me creaked open. I didn't turn around, because I already knew what I would see. Instead, I looked at the window reflection, and there it was, standing behind me. Taller than the door frame, its head merely brushing the ceiling. Its skin looked gray, stretched tight over long bones. Just smooth skin, where features should have been. But I felt it smiling. The whisper came again. It doesn't want the station empty. The air grew freezing cold. The lights blinked. Heavy footsteps moved toward me from behind. I grabbed the shotgun and fired blindly over my shoulder. The sound was deafening inside the cabin. The lights went out completely. When I turned with my flashlight, nothing. The door was closed again. The room was empty. But the journal was lying open on the floor. And on the last page, beneath Harlow's final sentence, was fresh writing saying, "Now you know." I left before sunrise. I didn't even pack properly, and I didn't finish my paperwork. I drove straight back to headquarters and requested immediate retirement. 22 years of service ended in one night. Briar Ridge Outpost was sealed permanently. Official reason was structural instability. I don't live in West Virginia anymore. I moved to Ohio. Small town, close neighbors, street lights. But I still wake up at 2:47 a.m. every single night. And sometimes, just before I open my eyes, I hear 3 slow knocks. Not on my bedroom door, but on the wall beside my bed. As if something is checking up on me, to see if I'm still alone.